Welcome to Foundations in Psychology. I'm Dr. Ryan Langridge, and in this video we'll be discussing schemas. Schemas provide us with a means for thinking about how knowledge and information is organized within our memory. We can think of a schema as a cognitive framework or a mental map used to organize and, when necessary, access the information we have stored in our memory. For example, if I asked you to think about your most recent birthday, a whole host of memories would probably come to mind, including how old you were turning, what the weather was like that day, what you did to celebrate, who you were with, and so on. In this case, we would say you had activated your birthday schema, a cluster of memories and information related to that particular concept. I could then go on to ask you some more particular information, such as what were you wearing? Did you receive any particularly special gifts on that day? What did you have for dinner? And you would likely be able to answer these questions relatively quickly because you're using the available information you have stored in your schema. This is what memory researchers refer to as reconstructive memory. The idea here is that when we remember something, we first activate our more general schema, and then we use the information within that schema to reconstruct the specific details of that memory. It's important to note here that our memories are not perfect, and in some cases we can actually pull out incorrect or inaccurate information from our schemas and therefore reconstruct inaccurate memories. Now, as we spend more time talking about your birthday, probably more and more information is coming to mind about that specific event. And that makes sense because we have activated your birthday schema, so all this information is readily available to you. But if I were to suddenly ask you about a very different memory, like learning to ride a bike or your first day of high school, you would probably need a second or two to activate this new schema and access the new information related to this distinct, separate memory. Let's imagine what it would be like if we did not take advantage of schemas and information in our memory wasn't organized in any meaningful way. Let's imagine this deck of cards is my memory, and each card in this pile represents a piece of information in my mind, a fact, or a memory from my life. Now, if I had to remember a certain piece of information or a certain memory, I would have to search through this pile until I found the card I was looking for. Let's say it was the 8 of diamonds. Okay? And then moving on, if I needed to remember a different memory or a new piece of information, I would have to do the whole thing again. Now, I would eventually find the correct memory. I would eventually locate the correct piece of information, but it would take a lot of time, and it wouldn't necessarily be efficient. Let's reconsider this using schemas. Remember, we're defining schemas as a cognitive framework, or mental map, organizing all the information in memory. So let's organize all these memories here, all these pieces of information that I have. Now we could go about this a number of different ways. I'm going to organize these memories based on the suit. Now we have all the information, all my memories organized within a meaningful framework. And if I need to recall a particular piece of information or a certain memory, all I have to do is activate the appropriate schema and find the specific piece of information inside of that schema. As I continue to have experiences in my life and learn new things, I will be adding to my schemas. And each new piece of information will modify and potentially change my understanding of a particular concept or how I remember a certain event. Let's consider an example of how schemas can be useful for guiding our behavior. Imagine we're borrowing a friend's car. We've never driven the car before, and we get in the driver's seat and we realize right away that this is not like any car we've driven before. It's very unfamiliar. At first, we might not know what to do, but by activating our driving schema, which includes all our knowledge about how cars work and our memories of driving cars in the past, we're able to apply this previous knowledge to the current situation and understand that it's really just a matter of finding out how to turn the car on, using the gas pedal and brake pedal, the steering wheel, so on and so forth. We also have schemas for people. This can include our self schema, as well as schemas for other individuals and other groups of people. When we encounter someone from a particular group, whether it be someone who works in a certain profession or comes from a certain cultural background, our schema for this group is activated. In most cases, the activation of this schema is helpful for facilitating a meaningful interaction with that person. However, it's important to recognize that our schemas can ultimately work to reinforce certain stereotypes about a person or a group of people. I hope you enjoyed today's video discussing schemas. If you have any questions about schemas, or any suggestions for a future video, please feel free to leave us a comment. If you learned something from today's video, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel.